don't have much time, but you want to sew something in under an hour that actually looks really professional. Today, I'm sharing 12 really easy sewing projects that are perfect for beginners and that I personally love to sew if I want to make something quick and easy. Hi guys, I'm Tammy and welcome back to my channel. I personally know what it feels like when you want to make something just quick and easy and you don't want a really big sewing project that's just going to take lots of time. If this is you, these 12 sewing projects are going to be so perfect for you because you can make them in under an hour and it's going to be a really simple project to sew. Let's get into the first category, which is clothing. So this is the first pattern right here, and this is the Grasser silk skirt pattern. It is a really quick project to sew. I reckon you can probably make this skirt in under 45 minutes. It's basically just an A-line skirt with a really simple shape, and it just has a really simple elasticated waistband, so it's going to be really quick to sew. It's one of those pieces that go with so many things in your wardrobe, and you can wear this throughout any season of the year. This is a free sewing pattern, and I'll make sure to leave a link down below with all the ones that I share today. I'm pretty sure this skirt uses French seams to sew the side seams of the skirt. That is going to be more time consuming, so if you want to make it quicker, you could totally just use a standard stitch and an overlocker to finish the raw edge. With a skirt like this, you definitely want to use a really nice drapey fabric like a silk or a satin or even a viscose, so make sure you pay attention to how your fabric moves when you're cutting this pattern out. The next pattern is the Naya t-shirt, and that is one of my own sewing patterns. I personally have made this in under 45 minutes, and I know so many makers have done that too. This t-shirt is a really simple sew. It has built-in drop sleeves to make it a really comfortable loose fit, and then naturally the waist also has a boxy fit, so there's no fitting required when you're making this top. I personally like to use really drapey jersey fabrics to make this top, but any sort of stretch fabric will work perfectly for this pattern. You can also sew this on an overlocker, or if you don't have an overlocker, you can use a zigzag stitch or a stretch stitch on your normal sewing machine. I personally have about 10 Naya t-shirts in my wardrobe, and I know so many people end up making more than one once they make this pattern. It's just a really simple, easy pattern to sew, and also because I had a sew along video tutorial for you, it makes it so much quicker to follow. Depending on what size you sew as well, you can actually get this out of under 1 meter of fabric. The next pattern for you to sew in under an hour is my free Etty camisole pattern. It's a really simple, stylish sewing pattern that has a gorgeous scallop neckline detail on the front, and then also just a bit more of a looser, casual fit, so it's not too fitted to your body. I'm going to say you can sew this in 1 hour, probably not underneath that, because you need to take your time when you're sewing the scalloped edges and also pressing that to be nice and flat at the end. But you don't use any French seams to sew the side seams of this top. You just use a normal standard stitch on your sewing machine, and then any method you prefer to finish the raw edges. Again, tops like this, I love to use really flowy, kind of drapey fabric because I like the way it falls on my body. I personally like to use crepes or viscose, or even like a cotton that has just a bit more fluidity than just a normal standard cotton to make this top. Totally up to you, but something like this you can sew really quickly and easily, and it will just go with so many items in your wardrobe. The next pattern is the Anything But Basic t-shirt pattern by DIY Club, and it's actually a free sewing pattern. This looks very easy and simple for beginners to sew. It's just basically a classic crew neck t-shirt that has sleeves and just a really simple hem at the bottom. You want to use any sort of cotton jersey or t-shirt weight fabrics to make this. I reckon you can make this in under an hour because all you have to do is basically sew the side seams, sew the shoulder seams, add the neckband around the neckline, and just hem the sleeves and the t-shirt hem. So super simple process, and actually now that I think about it, I think under 45 minutes. If you're a beginner, obviously these steps can take you a bit longer, but the general gist of these types of projects that I'm sharing today, once you practice, you'll be able to nail them really quickly and easily. Again, as I mentioned before, you can see in these pictures they've used really drapey fabric to make this, even though it's a stretch fabric. I think the biggest mistake I made when I was sewing t-shirts as a complete beginner was just using a fabric that was a bit too stiff and didn't really have any movement with it. If you're going to choose a fabric that has a bit more drape, it just means on your body when you're wearing it, it will flow a bit nicer, and it also just won't feel too restricted. The next pattern is a very summery pattern, and it's the Tulsi top by Mood sewing patterns. Super easy make, and it looks really, really simple to sew. As you can see, it looks like a wrap top that just goes around the bust, and then I think it kind of wraps around the neck and has like a straight back around the back. I also imagine this is going to take such little fabric to sew, and I probably think you can sew this in under 45 minutes because it's just stretch fabric. I think you just gather the bust to have that sort of detail, and you literally just twist the fabric to have that detail at the front. You definitely want to use stretch fabric to make this top because it needs to stretch over your body, and especially with that neckline detail to wrap around your neck. I can can imagine this as a set as well. They've shown it with a pair of leggings, but even if you had like a nice flowy skirt to go with this, it makes such a nice kind of beachy outfit. The next clothing pattern is the Mia crop top pattern. It's one of my own sewing patterns, and I personally have made this in under half an hour. It's such a simple pattern to sew. It basically is just like a bandeau top at the front and the back, and then you also have straps to help you give you a bit more support. It's fully lined, so it gives you a bit more support than if it was just a single layer of fabric, and it's just so quick to make. Again, you want to use stretchy fabric to make this. I personally like using jerseys or even like a Ponte Roma for a bit more coverage. It's honestly just such a staple piece in my wardrobe. When it's summer, I wear this like every day. Any size you sew as well, you can sew this with under 1 meter worth of fabric. So it's going to be a really quick sew and also just take up such little fabric. The last pattern in the clothing section of this video is this free legging sewing pattern by Life So Savory. It looks like such a simple piece to make. Leggings is one of those pieces you'll know you get a lot of wear out of, and this one just looks so comfortable to wear and sew. This pattern uses elastic on the waistband, so it's going to be nice and comfortable and stretchy when you're wearing it. I think the pattern piece for this as well is just one pattern piece that you fold in half, so I don't even think you have a side seam for this, you only have an inner crotch seam. So I imagine you can make this pattern in probably 30 minutes. Again, you'll definitely need stretchy fabric to make this pattern. I'm even thinking a 4-way stretch fabric, so it stretches not only on the width but also on the length when you're putting it on you. Maybe be aware of not choosing a fabric that's too see-through because you want a bit of coverage, as it's just going to be one layer of fabric on the leggings. The next category is accessories, and the first pattern that I'm going to share is a free sewing pattern, and it's this tote bag right here. My video tutorial comes with all the measurements for you to sew this at home, and I personally sewed this in under 1 hour. It's basically 2 rectangles of fabric, and then also you have a really cute patch pocket on the front and 2 straps to be nice and comfortable at a nice length. If you've never done any sewing project before, I would actually recommend starting off with a tote bag to kind of get the idea of how to sew a seam, and also you're able to sew something that doesn't require any fitting whatsoever. Definitely choose a fabric like cotton to work with if this is your first project, because cotton is the easiest fabric to work with. It presses well and it also just sews really simply. Again, you can find the links to everything that I've talked about so far in the description box down below. This would also be such a great gift if you're looking to make some sewing presents for loved ones. The next free sewing pattern is this bucket hat by LB Textiles. Bucket hats in general are really simple and easy to sew, and I reckon you can sew them in under 1 hour. Some bucket hats actually get you to do a load of top stitching along the brim of the hat. That obviously is going to take you much more time than it would normally, but this pattern in particular allows you to do it as an option, so you can sew this in under an hour if you're probably not going to do the top stitching around the detail of the brim. You definitely want to use sturdier fabric to make this. You're thinking your kind of medium to heavyweight cottons, denims, linens, even like corduroy, just to give it a bit more structure when you're wearing the hat. If you're using fabric like cotton or viscose that's too lightweight, basically the hat is going to be too floppy, so there won't be much structure when you're wearing it. It's just a simple hat, to be honest, really nice and easy to make, and it looks like such a simple project to sew. The next pattern is this free bow scrunchie pattern. It's a really simple project to sew, and personally I've sewn it in under 20 minutes. You basically just sew an ordinary scrunchie, and then you make this special tie detail that you tie around the scrunchie to get that bow. Honestly, it's so adorable. It makes such cute gifts, and also it's just such a nice present. Scrunchies also use such little fabric as well, so it's great for using scrap pieces of fabric in your stash. You want to use fabrics like cotton, linen, viscose, satin, any fabric really that's not too structured, because you have to feed elastic through the tube to make it easy to turn out. And also it's going to be on your hair, so you don't want it to be like too much of a stiffer kind of rougher fabric in case it breaks your hair when you're wearing it. That one is really such a simple pattern to make. If you want a pattern out of this video that's probably the quickest to make, it's probably this scrunchie. The last category is homeware, and I'm going to share this sewing pattern right here. It's a quilted velvet pillow. It's just a square, and it's by a pattern company called A Beautiful Mess. This project is perfect if you don't want to sew any clothing or accessories like that. You just want to sew something for your home that's quick and easy, because it's basically just a square that you sew into a pillow, and then to give it a bit more texture and a bit more of a different kind of feel, you sew the quilted detail on the front. I actually personally love making pillows. I made quite a few for Christmas last year, and it's just such a nice simple simple project to do when you don't feel like sewing anything like clothing. I particularly like how in this one they use the velvet fabric because it gives it a bit of a special touch. Obviously you can use any type of fabric, maybe fabric that's a bit more medium weight, so your medium weight cottons, linens, even canvas or corduroy, something just with a bit more structure so it's not too floppy when you put the pillow inside it. I also like the opening for this pillow. There's no zips or anything like that that's hard to sew. It's just like a fold over piece. So the last pattern that you can make in under 1 hour is these really cute DIY bookmarks. I personally use these all the time. They're really cute and adorable and I like having them within my book. I personally have sewed these in 10 minutes. They're so simple to make, honestly. You can either make the longer rectangular bookmark or you can make the square bookmark that goes on the corner of the pages. I personally prefer to use the longer rectangular bookmark. That's just something I've always used whenever I've been reading. You ideally want to use something a bit more medium weight. I personally just use a lightweight cotton and interface it to give it a bit more structure, but that's totally up to you and what you're looking for. And also a project like this, you really don't need much fabric at all. You can just use scrap fabrics or even like fat quarters to make this. This again will also make a really cute gift if you have any presents you want to sew for loved ones. I hope you enjoyed this roundup of 12 sewing patterns that you can sew in under an hour or less. Honestly, sometimes you want a project that's not going to take so much time and energy for you to sew, and that's completely fine. Not everything you make has to be super complicated and something that's going to take so much time and energy. I personally like having these sorts of palette cleansers to kind of get me back into the groove of sewing something, but also allowing me to make something that I can wear pretty much instantly on the same day. Let me know in the comments down below if you have any suggestions for things that you like to sew in under an hour, and I'll see you in the next one.